It's a terrific morning if you want to talk about Giants football because one of the things I saw today was Steve Serby of the New York Post with a lengthy story about Daniel Jones in talking to Duke head coach David Cutcliffe, who had Jones with the Blue Devils. And apparently, part of Jones's acclimation and maturing process into the NFL has involved, as he has said, going back to Duke to try to study up on some of the things that he wants to work on. And former Duke quarterback Anthony Boone, who is a quarterbacks coach, an independent quarterbacks coach, is apparently the guy who has been assigned to work with Daniel Jones. Cutcliffe and all of his Duke alums obviously have a great relationship. And I thought it was interesting that Cutcliffe said that there were three things that they want to be improved: ball security, which we all know, pocket movement, and arm angle. Your take on it?
Well, first of all, hi, Paul.
Hello, Jeff.
Great to be back on the show with you. That's for sure.
It is.
Those three things all involve technique and learning to, well, first of all, ball security. Okay, so that's, position of your hands on the football, where you're going to carry it in the pocket. Moving your feet. Possibly that's into your throws, stepping up into your throws, avoiding rushes by just taking some footwork left and right, and also getting out of the way and avoiding some of those sacks. And then the third one was, what was the third one?
Arm angle.
Yeah, and that's whatever. I mean, that's that every quarterback works on that, because you got to have those throwing lanes and arm angles, meaning that you got to work on the technique as far as how you throw certain routes with your arm angle. Your arm angle on a 9 route, which is going to be a long pass, is going to be a little bit different than something over the middle or even a screen pass. So those are things. Obviously, he went back and looked at and did some self-scouting of his season last year, jotted a few things down. I'm sure that Jerry Shaplinsky, his position coach, probably said, these are some of the things I want you to work on while you're away. And so these have been addressed, and he's down there at Duke. He's in his own domain down there. He's used to being there, so that's good because he can't be here.
Yeah, I recently read some comments from Boone, who had talked to one of the writers, and he said that he specializes in trying to get Daniel Jones annoyed, trying to get under his skin, understanding that that's a great way to motivate him to improve. And specifically, it comes into play when you're talking about the ball security, because apparently Boone is very much a stickler for trying to poke the ball away when Jones is running through some of his drills, and he wants to make sure that Daniel is concentrating on holding on to the ball. And I can think of no better motivation than to have somebody annoy you like a mosquito to make sure that he doesn't get that job done.
Well, I mean, by the time you annoy somebody enough, it becomes normal, right? I mean, you know that, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore because I'm sick and tired of being annoyed. And I feel like it's one of those situations with a player, no matter what, whatever game you're playing, whatever sport it is, that once you break out of a habit, and then you go to correct it, you've got to do it over and over and over in order to correct it. So that's what he's doing by the annoyance of this coach going ahead and doing things to stop him from, maybe dropping the ball down low, where guys can swat it away, things like that. So I think that these are good things that he's working on, technique and fundamentals of the game and the position he plays. It's important. I mean, obviously he was rushed a lot last year because teams thought, number one, the offensive line was not that good and we could get to the quarterback. And number two, the quarterback was going to turn the ball over if we could get pressure on him and get our hands around the football.
You know what boggles me, Jeff? And it's laughable. Again, it's about these folks who just see statistics inside of a bubble. There was one of those analytics services came out recently talking about Daniel Jones having extremely poor numbers on deep throws downfield, talking about what they perceive to be a lack of accuracy. Well, it's funny when you consider the fact that he didn't always have the protection he was supposed to have, which meant his receivers didn't always have the ability to run through their routes. We also know the Giants don't have a crop of very tall receivers. They're smaller, so the window in the box has to be even more exact. When you also throw in the fact that, unfortunately, in many cases, the Giants were playing from behind, so it allowed secondaries to cheat. I mean, there are so many factors that go into this, including, by the way, whether Daniel Jones plays in the New Jersey Meadowlands. He does not play in a dome like Drew Brees does. He does not play in gorgeous California weather like Goff does. You know, he's got to deal with the NFC East, which means he's also playing in Philadelphia and in Washington. And so you get these guys who want to quote these numbers to you, and they don't take into account the 8 other factors that could actually result in that incompletion. They just want to say, oh, look at his completion percentage on these passes, and obviously he's not very good. It boggles the mind how people could actually make those statements and draw those conclusions when they're not taking into account literally a shoebox full of other factors that really need to be considered. And that's why real football people watch the tape, and they know that their eyes will not lie to them.
Well, I think that, too, is that you got to look at the inexperience at this level. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, how many guys come into the National Football League and when they go to start games at the quarterback position are very accurate down the field on their long passes? Seriously. Okay. So it's a timing. It's all about protection, and it's all about the speed of the game. Now, we all know that he played in the ACC, but we all know that the difference between the NFL and the college level and speed is different. So I think let's go ahead and see what he does this season. See how his accuracy improves on some of that. See how the protection improves where he has time to throw. I would love to see the statistic on how many of those balls that he was pressured on where they were long footballs. You mentioned that he was behind in games. You know, well, when you're behind in games and the defense can come after you, you know, that's not good. It's really not.
Oh, there's no question.
And again, Paul, I think that it has to do a lot with the inexperience and being young at the quarterback position. Now, yeah, okay, so let's look at Patrick Mahomes. Okay, he's an anomaly. The guy is just, you know, if there was 32 of them, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But there's not. So guys got to move into their role. They've got to. I will tell you this from my experience at my own position. I will tell you that I was still learning to play my position of all things. You would think that it was that easy, right? Just catch the ball and kick it. But all the way up until my 20th, 21st, 22nd season, I was constantly learning how to do things and perfect the craft and the position. So nobody ever gets it right. Nobody ever does. And it's a constant battle between you and the position, trying to exceed expectations from people. And I think that Daniel Jones will do that eventually.
Well, I think one of the things that John Schmelk's been able to do is continue the Giants Huddle podcast as one of the other links here on the Giants.com website. He had ESPN's Dan Orlovsky on yesterday. And Orlovsky broke down Daniel Jones and talked about how he believes that Jones, when throwing into a tight window on some of these passes, is one of the best in the NFL at doing so. And it just goes to show you that
why
if
did
you
he
just
say
want to
that?
go by these numbers that some computer spits out, you're going to get a very warped opinion, and your conclusions are going to be based on a bunch of hooey, to be perfectly frank with you. You've got to understand the game and all of the other factors that aren't being put into that computer. And I just, I don't know. I just think folks should listen to that interview that John did with Dan and get a little bit more of a perspective which incorporates true football knowledge. Hey, our phone number is 973-667-1960. We go to the phones, and Peter, you are in the Florida Keys, and you're first on the program. Hello.
Paul and Jeff, good morning. How you guys doing?
Good morning,
Peter. Nice to talk to you.
You too. I had a couple questions for you. First question I had for you, I've been listening to the shows the last few days, and I enjoyed the Kidna and the Orlovsky discussions about Daniel Jones. My question for you, and it sounds like a lot of the turnover issues, both of those guys seem that Daniel Jones could kind of clean that up. Might take a little bit, but it sounds like there's definitely some cleanup that can be possible. My question for you, first question, has anybody gone through all of the turnovers that Daniel Jones had last year and identify if they were due to him holding on to the ball too long or missed assignments from maybe a Nate Solder? Has anybody done a breakdown on that as of yet, or no?
I promise you the coaches have. Yeah. Because that is what I was talking about when we first opened the show, and we're talking about Daniel Jones and what he's got an improvement in that, and those 3 things that he had to work on.
Right.
I promise you that the staff, the new staff, when breaking down Daniel Jones, went through every single game, every throw, every play, and came up with some things to have him work on. And absolutely, they were broken down into however many turnovers he had. What did they equate to? Yes, you did hold on to the ball too long here. No, this was good pocket awareness. The fact that it just broke down quickly, things like that. So it's a very good question, and I don't have the answer to who, but I can tell you that I would highly suggest that they did do that, and I think they did.
Let me give you some of the numbers. You asked me about Daniel Jones's fumbles. According to my film study, 18 fumbles last year. Of his 18 fumbles, 3 of them came while he was running with the football. All right? 15 of them came in the pocket. Now, of the 15 that came in the pocket, 5 of them, and this was the most often cited fumble that he had last year, 5 of them came while he was throwing, and a blind side strip came from the backside to knock the ball out of his hands while he was in throwing motion. 5 of the 18. Now, that could be fixed by how? It could be fixed by better offensive line play. It could be fixed by him getting rid of the ball quicker, because in his second NFL season, he will recognize things faster, and he will be able to get that pass off before the rush hits him. So I think that's a very, very fixable and correctable deal. I will also tell you that 3 of his fumbles came because he was too late in trying to tuck the ball away. Okay? In the pocket, trying to tuck it. He was too late in doing so, and the defender was able to knock it out before he was able to secure it. And that was another very popular reason for his fumbles among the 18. Those would be the ones that I think are really kind of lead you to some type of conclusion in terms of ones that he might be able to clean up. I think those 8 fumbles that I just talked about in the pocket, you can reduce those just by experience and understanding the NFL play clock is a lot faster than it was at Duke. And that's what Jeff was trying to tell you earlier in the phone call.
Hey, Giants fans, Saquon Barkley here. You want to see more videos? Subscribe below.